Good evening. Thank you for joining us on New London Republicans, the party that's looking out for you. Tonight's show is hosted by me, Bill Vogel, chairman of the New London Republican Town Committee, and we'll have a number of things to talk to you about this evening. I guess the first thing I want to say is it looks like the snow's finally melting. It's a little bit less every day, and it's not all melting all at once and causing us a lot of flooding. So I guess we're gradually coming out of the depths of winter. So pretty soon I'll see those crocuses coming up, I'm sure, and I'm looking for them. So we'll see how that goes. One of the other things I wanted to mention to you is that the show is put up on YouTube each week. Obviously it's the show, it'll go up tomorrow or the next day. This show will. So it's, a couple days after the fact. But it's up there, and we have about probably 4 or 5 shows up there now, and most of the issues are still relevant, and they're usually different, but still relevant because we're still in the throes of getting through the winter and getting ready for the budget season. The budget season will be coming along on April 1st. This Tuesday, the mayor will be announcing what his budget is, along with the Board of Education budget, and we'll talk some more about that as we go through it. I guess before we get into the agenda, I was just going to say a few words about, I think if you've been watching the news or television at all, you probably see where the Army's going to charge Bowe Bergdahl with desertion and disruptive behavior in the face of the enemy type thing, and which appears to be very well deserved. I mean, everybody that was in his unit said that he deserted, and people that went out to look for him after he deserted, some of them got killed in the process. So it's pretty egregious what he did. But what's even more amazing is that the president would bring his father, Bowe Bergdahl's father and mother, to the Rose Garden and have basically a reception for them, and making out like bringing back Bowe Bergdahl was just a wonderful thing to do. We were leaving nobody behind, and this was just a great deal. And then you had his father sit there and say some words in Arabic, and I mean, it's unbelievable. I guess the outcome of all this is that I think it's fair to say that you have a hard time finding a worse president than President Obama. I mean, it's hard to think of any wins the man has. Almost everything he touches is a loser. And of course this one was. And of course I think the reason why they had the big ceremony in the Rose Garden was because they had released 5 Taliban commanders in exchange for Bowe Bergdahl. And they knew they were going to get some blowback on that because, one, it was supposed to go to Congress before they did it, and a number of things like that. And there they are, releasing these 5 guys. And so to make the news palatable, to put a little sugar to help the medicine go down, they did this big to-do in the Rose Garden over Bowe Bergdahl. And then you even had Susan Rice come out and say that Bowe Bergdahl had served with honor and distinction, and just a number of platitudes like that. Now, I don't know if there's anybody dumber than Susan Rice. I mean, she's the same one that came out and said that the problems in Benghazi were due to a video, which has been proven to be totally wrong and disingenuous. And there she is again. Now she's the national security advisor. Back then, she was the UN, our ambassador to the United Nations. But now she's the national security advisor, and she's saying that Bowe Bergdahl served with honor and distinction when the Army already had known that he deserted. And then, of course, we had this big, long investigation and the big to-do, and finally the Army comes out and says the guy's a deserter, which is no longer a surprise. What's really a surprise, and to the Army's credit, they obviously had to cross Obama and his White House staff to actually do that, because I'm sure the White House was going to try to finesse it and just move it out the door without a lot of fanfare. Now there will be a court-martial for this guy, and it'll just bring countless bad vibes on the Obama administration for how stupid they were to have the Rose Garden party for the parents and to honor Bo Bergdahl's release. I mean, it's incredible. It just goes from one thing to another to another. Where you know, it's hard to look around 360 degrees and see where anything's going right. I mean, the economy is barely coming out of the recession. You have scandal upon scandal in the Obama administration, from the IRS to the Justice Department tapping people's telephones, and it just, you know, and there's many others. You got Hillary with her email gate situation. It just keeps on going. So I don't know. It's I do think when you look back and this administration's evaluated in the history books, it'll be listed as one of the most dysfunctional administrations that we've ever had. And it's largely due to the fact that he has a bunch of inexperienced people that are his chief advisors. You got Valerie Jarrett, who's the principal advisor, born in Iran, she speaks Farsi. You know, and she's the principal advisor. And now what qualifies her for that role? Who knows? Number two, you got Susan Rice, who's the national security advisor. You know, whatever qualified her for that role. You got Michelle Obama, who is influential, and she doesn't, you know, bring anything to the table either. Then you got the UN, the ambassador to the UN. I forget her name right now, but you know, yet another woman that the Obama administration brought in. These aren't people like Susan Rice, who had a lot going for them. These are people that it's hard to figure out how they ever got there, you know, in these positions. And the result is you see a disastrous foreign policy. You see things crashing in on all sides. And we got almost 2 more years to go with this gang that can't shoot straight. And so God knows what's gonna happen. I'm sure every bad guy in the world is going to say, now's the time to make hay, because we'll be getting a new president. We'll have there'll be a new daddy in the White House that's going to kick some butt, let's hope. And now's the time for these guys to try to get whatever they want, including the Iranians. You know, what kind of a deal is that? But anyhow, so I know you've seen it on the news, you hear it, but it is so outrageous. I just can't ignore it. I've never seen anything quite as dumb as what's happened here. And again, I want to say congratulations to the Army for standing up and going against the White House and bringing this guy to a court-martial where he belongs. So anyway, okay, having said all that, let's jump into some local news. And I think one of the first things I want to cover is, we got the word last night, I guess, that we're coming in with a budget surplus. Let's see, was it last night? Maybe it was the night before. But anyway, we got the word that the New London surplus is coming in with a surplus of $848,000, and that's a lot of money. That's a big plus, and in spite of the fact that the mayor and the finance director have raised taxes every year that they've been there, and they've raised them a lot, it's still a pleasure to see the fact that they didn't spend every last cent they got, and they're putting $848,000 into the rainy day fund, and called the reserve fund, I think. And so, I'm really pleased to see that happen, and I'm just glad that they didn't take advantage of the situation and say, oh, well, we got a few extra dollars, let's spend them. But it does mean that, the reserve fund is now pretty good shape. I mean, it's gone from, it was at almost $1.5 million. Now it's $2.3 million with this surplus. So that's pretty good. And the other thing is that, and I got to question this, I'm still not very happy about this, but they got the $1.1 million bonding that is also, they're going to borrow money to put in the reserve fund. So that's another 1.1 million. So you have about 3.4 million thereabouts, and I don't know if the mayor is going to try to put some more budget some more money to go in the reserve fund. I think he said he was, but that was before the surplus came out. So I'm not sure how they're going to handle that. So it's looking that is a plus. The city spent. Let's see. The city spent. Let me see if I can cover this. The city received $755,000 more in revenue than it originally anticipated, including an additional $427,000 from charges for services, which I don't know what those are, $232,000 for licenses and permits, and $99,000 in property taxes, more in property taxes than they originally planned. The city spent almost $93,000 less than it had budgeted, with savings largely coming from education budget at $96,000, employee benefits payments at $172,000, city council budget at $104,000, and the public works department at $77,000, and the mayor's office at $48,000. There were also over expenditures, including $172,000 in the police department, and $159,000 in the fire department, and $91,000 in the finance department. In total, the surplus equals $848,000. The surplus will be added to the city's fund balance or savings account, and bringing the balance of that account from $1.5 million to $2.3 million. Also on Tuesday, Finenzio Smith and Treasurer Donna Reinhardt and Bond Counsel Joe Selinger, 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 I guess, signed off on the issuance of $7.5 million in municipal notes. These are bonds. $8.4 million in municipal. Let me say that again. $7.5 million in municipal notes. I'm not sure what the difference between a municipal note and the $6.5 million in municipal bonds. They both are borrowed money, including $1.1 million approved by the city council last year as part of the mayor's fund balance replacement plan. So there's some money going into that reserve fund. So that's a good thing. We definitely should have the reserve fund should be someplace around. I guess they say it should be around 2 months worth of expenditures. And that would be about $13 million. The city council has a goal of 8%, which would be somewhere around probably 6 or 7 million. So you know they're getting there, and so this leads us to what happens next week on Tuesday when the mayor presents his budget. Well, we already know that the Board of Ed is going to come in with a 6% budget increase, which I think is I'm shocked at the board doing that. I mean, it's just really hard to believe, and we'll go into the reasons why they say they have to do it, but it just doesn't make sense. And so then the mayor will come in with so basically the Board of Ed coming in at 6%. They're half the total budget. You know, it's about 40 plus million for the board and 40 plus million for the municipal for $80 plus million budget. And so with the board goes up 6%, the overall will go up about 3%. So right away you have a 3% increase in the total budget with the board coming in at 6%. And the mayor said that he's going to push that forward to the council. And then you have whatever the city's increase is. So it's hard to believe the city won't come in with at least a 2% increase. So that would be at least 1% more added to the budget, which would bring it up to 4%. So I would be surprised if we see, I'd be surprised if we see anything less than a 4% budget increase for next year, which, you know, basically we've gotten whacked. The first year the mayor was here was about 5%, as I recall. The second year he was here was about 5%. Last year was about 10%. So it's adding up very quickly. It'd be really interesting to take a look and see what the difference is between the last budget before Mayor Fangio and the budget that he's going to announce tomorrow. I would think that he would try to keep it as low as possible, given that he wants to run for re-election, and basically he knows he's going to have a primary, and the people that vote in the primary are not going to be the same people that vote in the general election. The people that vote in the primary are going to be the people, by and large, that know what's going on, where a lot of the people that vote in the general election are people that really haven't been following things very closely, often called low information voters. So when you have the primary, the mayor's got to really worry about the people that know what's going on, the Democrats that know what's going on, and those people are not going to appreciate another big tax increase. So I would think that he would try to hold it down as much as he can. And what I would like to see is the council challenge the Board of Ed and get them down to where their contribution is no more than, they should, there's no reason they need to come in at 6% increase. Maybe a 4% increase, maybe. What they said is that they need it because of a 1% teacher salary increase. Okay, I can see that. That 8% increase in benefits to employees of the Board of Ed. That one's a little hard to swallow because even though it's probably a small percentage of the budget, 8% is going to contribute to the overall pretty significantly. And it's obviously something that some of the board members that are on there now probably were part of the negotiations that worked out with the union these increases in benefits. So somebody didn't look after the taxpayers when they did these contracts that are bringing forth an 8% increase in benefits. That's really bad. Maybe it's due to some Obamacare type issues. I don't know, but we really need to look into that and see what's going on there. And then the thing that really is startling, we've talked about it before on here, is the fact that they're talking about adding about 340 new students, half of which, thereabouts, are magnet school students coming from out of district, which means that we should be getting tuition for those people from their parent district, and we should be getting $3,000 per head for each one of those students from the state, because that's how the state handles these magnet school things. So that should be a wash. The gains that you get from the state putting in $3,000 plus the tuitions should offset the fact that you have maybe 350 more students coming in from New London. So it's really hard to see. That Board of Ed budget really needs to be scrutinized, and I'm a little bit surprised that Rivera would even come in. His firing salvo coming in is a 6% increase. Remember, last year it was only 2%. Now, how can it be 2% last year and be 6% this year? I mean, what's really changed? I covered what they said, but it really is hard to see how it adds up. I'd like to see the council knock it back to at least 4% increase rather than a 6% increase. And if the mayor comes in with a 2% increase on his budget, well then, then we basically are in a position where we aren't going to be hitting the taxpayers with an outrageous tax bill yet again. So let's hope that that's what happens. The problem that we have is that there's too many people that just sit there and pass along these increases. I don't know what the Board of Ed was doing passing along an increase like that. They said they were going to do it several months ago, but there was very little that I saw that was in the papers or anything that sort of described, well, why is it if you have 350 more students, 340 more students, half of which are out of district, why is that then going to be a cause for a large increase in the Board of Ed budget? If the magnet schools aren't lowering the burden on the New London taxpayer, what the heck do we want magnet schools for? I mean, the whole purpose is twofold. One of it was to lower the cost and the burden on the New London taxpayer, and the other one was to try to improve academic performance. Hello, caller, you're New London Republicans.
Oh, I just have a comment. And last year with the 2% increase, didn't they end up having an excess of money?
They had some. They turned in some money to the city that was surplus, just like they are this year. Might have been a little bit more last year.
So with the 2% increase, they had an excess.
Correct.
Now they're asking for 4%.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Yeah. Now they're asking for an overall 7%, 6% increase that would affect the citizens of New London, the taxpayers of New London.
And we can't take on anymore. It's excessive.
I agree with you. I don't know how those people sit there in at the Board of Ed meetings and think it's okay to pass along a 6% tax increase, a 6% increase in their budget, which is a big tax increase for the people of New London. I mean, haven't we been taxed enough?
And I have not gotten a pay raise in over 5 years. My deductible keeps rising at my job, and I can't keep carrying the burden of everyone else. I can't do it anymore, and I'm tax locked. I can't sell my property because nobody's going to come in here and pay the taxes.
You're right. That's unfortunate.
It's doomsday in New London. It really is. It's horrible.
Yeah, you got more houses for sale, and and then one of the articles that we were talking about maybe last week is they're saying that the New London property values are expected to go down 3% this year. I hope it's just 3% and not more than that.
Well, if taxes keep increasing, it'll go down more.
That's right. Because
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The caller's right. If the taxes, an increase in taxes is directly transferable to a decrease in property values, because the person buying a house has to qualify for a mortgage, and when they're qualified for the mortgage, the overall cost of owning the house is factored in, not just what's paid back to the bank, but also the taxes and insurance and utilities and other things are all factored in. And as the taxes go up, the price of the house goes down, because the person that has to qualify for that mortgage, he's going to qualify for a fixed price, and it's not going to go just because taxes go up doesn't mean he's qualified for a bigger mortgage. He just would he would be qualified for a less expensive house. So that means that the overall property values go down because people can't afford to get the mortgage for the price that you'd like to sell the house for. So it's really it really is a downward spiral. I mean, God help us. I hope we can pull out of it, because right now people in New London are paying taxes beyond taxes, and that brings me to another subject. One of the things that I really think should happen is that people like Conn College. I mean, it's a really nice college. It's a real credit to New London to have a school like that, right here in New London. But my gosh, why can't they contribute? They should be putting in $1 million or $2 million a year into the municipal budget, just like these other cities, like Yale does to New Haven, Brown does to Providence, and on it goes. They have a fund that's over $200 million. They're, what do they call it? Well, we won't worry about that right now. Maybe I'll think of it. But they have over $200 million in their general fund for building buildings and things like that. The interest on that money would be more than enough to cover $1 million or $2 million to the city of New London each year to help offset some of the expenses that the taxpayers bearing, partly for them, because if they need police, if they need fire, it's New London that's going to be providing it. And Conn College really should step up and help out, and they haven't. Mitchell College, to a lesser degree, should be able to do the same. But again, Mitchell doesn't have near the money that Conn College has. There would be some folks that say, well, maybe the hospital should contribute. Well, the hospital right now, the hospitals are so racked with Obamacare and taxes by Malloy that they're about smothered. I don't think you can get any more blood out of that rock. You know, I mean, it's trying to get blood from a rock, trying to get money out of a hospital right now. It's bad. So anyhow, but you know, the caller's right. People are really coming to an end of their rope on taxes. Okay, well, let's see. Again, I'm glad to see a surplus. I give an attaboy to the mayor and the finance director for coming through with that. And, you know, let's see if they can not tax us to death this next time. The Fort Trumbull issue is, let's see, right now, the NLDC, or the RCDA, the Renaissance City Development Association, you know, every time I hear that word, Renaissance Development, Renaissance City Development, that's such a, I don't know, I guess I just don't like that name. But anyway, the NLDC has approved a proposal by a Pennsylvania company for 104 units of housing, 18.4 million residential development in the Fort Trumbull neighborhood. The proposal submitted this month by AR Building Company calls for an 80-unit urban living apartment building, 2 12-unit townhouse buildings with integrated parking garage, a clubhouse with common areas, a fitness room, and an outdoor pool. The development would be situated on the same parcels that were to be the site of the 103-unit Village on the Thames townhouse-style development, which was first proposed in 2009 but fell apart just days before a planned groundbreaking in 2013. It would be located on roughly 4 acres of land split among parcels 2A, 2B, 2C, and would have water views overlooking the Coast Guard Station and the Fort Trumbull State Park. The entire project is on land that was once the Naval Underseas Warfare Center site. Well, I guess I'm glad to see something happening in the Fort Trumbull area, but I'm disappointed that it's apartments and rentals. New London already has more than 70% of its population are basically renters. Maybe 30% actually are owners that residents in New London that are paying taxes. And the reason that's important is because if you're a homeowner and living in New London, in your house, your property, you're very sensitive to property taxes. You're very sensitive to garbage pickup, to snow plowing, to police protection. You know, you basically have a lot of interest in what's going on in the city, especially when it comes to taxes, because you're paying them directly out of your wallet. The problem with the renter situation is that the renters don't pay taxes directly, and therefore what happens is they have a lot less interest in it, even though it's going to affect them in the long run. I mean, if the taxes go up to the landlord, he's going to raise his rents. But a lot of times the people are locked into a lease for a year or two, and they're not going to see an increase for a while, and so they don't really pay attention. Some of them don't pay attention to the what's happening with taxes, property taxes. So I would really like to see the Fort Trumbull developed with basically individual residents where people actually buy their house and their property and live there and pay taxes there, and that would help us move away from having such a large percentage of renters in town. And I think that would be a positive for basically the municipal government. So, you know, I'm a little bit surprised that the Linda Mariani and company, who run the NLDC or the RCDA, I'm surprised that they would have gone along with a rental situation. I mean, even condos would be better than the rentals. I guess this is the second development that's been proposed where they came in with these rentals. You would think a big builder coming in could make just as much money building individual properties and selling them as they could doing a big apartment building type thing, but apparently not. I think if they could, basically the developer's going to come in and try to basically earn as much as he can for the investment that he's making in building the properties, and apparently that goes towards the rental situation. It's too bad that the RCDA doesn't push these builders to come up with owner-occupied properties, even if condos or individual homes. I think it would be a lot better than what we're seeing with these rental situations. But I guess some development is better than no development, and we will get taxes off of these properties, eventually. I'd be interested to see if the developer tries to get tax abatements and things like that. And we got to be really careful about granting those because, if their business plan isn't robust enough to pay their taxes, then I would say they're like the last developer that came in that when push came to shove, they couldn't finance the project. So we'll see how this goes. But let's see if there's anything else we want to cover on this one. No, I think that pretty well covers it. So that what happens is that it goes to the city council, and if the city council approves it, then I guess it continues on. I suspect the mayor is in series with that approval at some point, and if it's approved, and it probably will be, then it'll go. It'll get basically approved by the city council, and then it'll be a matter of this company coming up with their engineering and architectural drawings and surveys and eventually construction. They'll have to again go to the state in order to show that they have the financial wherewithal to finance the project, and that's where the last developer fell on his butt, but we'll see. Okay. The city council, I think, very wisely set up a charter review board. I was glad to see that happen, and what I hope will happen is this charter review board will go through the charter and come up with lots of recommendations for the next Charter Revision Commission. The Charter Revision Commission usually comes in with a couple major things that they're being asked to address. One of the things I'm sure that'll come up with the next charter revision is how to handle budget petitions and referendums, so we don't get into the mess that we got into last year. So what happens then is they have a fairly limited time and sometimes a narrow task. The Charter Revision Commission does, and so they're not going to necessarily be able to cross all the I's and dot the T's and bring the charter up from where it's still got old things in it, things that existed in the 1930s that have long since gone. We need to clean up some of that kind of stuff. It's not too bad, but there's enough where a charter, a standing committee like the Charter Review Board will be able to go through and fix all the little things that need to be straightened out in the charter. So when the Charter Revision Commission comes along, they can address the big issues that the city council's asked them to address, and then the next time it goes before the voters, it'll be in a lot better shape than it has been before from previous charter revisions. So it's good to see them do that. Some of the people in there, I know one of them is Clark Vanderlight, who is I would say an expert on the charter and an expert on what needs to be done and an expert on city ordinances, and we'll bring a lot to that group. And the other folks seem to be quite knowledgeable too, and I think will provide a lot of good input. But I think Clark is probably as knowledgeable a guy as we have in the city right now in that area. So I'm glad to see him willing to serve. So good for him. I still want to, I'm still waiting to see what we're going to do with Chief Ackley. I'm waiting for her to not be on paid vacation anymore. I'd like to see her retired, but it's ironic that, I mean, the days come and the days go, and she's been on a paid vacation, paid absence since July 31st. So that's really really alarming. I mean, and she's got a big salary too. I think it's $108,000. I mean, it's you're getting a big paycheck for doing absolutely nothing. So I mean, that really is bad. Now, what the mayor should have done is I think he had more than enough justification to relieve her for cause back when he did, not for the little trivial things that he came out with, like not having enough police for overtime, or for Ocean Beach, or for Sailfest. So there was a few things in there, but those seemed like relatively minor things. What was major is the huge morale problems in the police department, the loss of a third of the officers. I mean, I don't know how anybody could stand up to that. I mean, if you lose 1/3 of your employees from a department that was at 90 plus officers, I mean, that reflects just horribly on the chief. I mean, even if she can blame the mayor, I mean, if she was really a responsible executive, she'd quit if the mayor was causing problems like that. I mean, you don't sit there and do things that are wrong because you're told to. At some point, you got to stand up and say, okay, I don't agree with that, and if you insist upon it, then you go hire yourself another police chief. She never did that. She just quibbled with him, and I just don't know why she wasn't relieved for cause back at that time. I know that there was a little to do about each one putting a lawsuit against the other and that kind of thing, but she should have been relieved for cause long before July 31st of last year. So let's hope we get that one straightened out soon. I'd hate to be the mayor going in before the voters with that situation still hanging fire. Another item I bring up every week is I'd like to see this council needs to handle what the pay for the mayor is going to be for the next 4 years. And I would like to see the pay, as I've said so many times on here, I'd like to see the pay brought up to where it's at least attractive enough for, let's say, experienced professional people to want to serve as mayor. A lot of people that would fit that category of successful professional people would be making more than what the mayor makes, and therefore wouldn't be able to serve without having a problem with their kids going to college or their mortgage or whatever. I mean, their lifestyle is based on their salary, and if you lower it, for a lot of people, it's going to be a big problem. So let's the council. This council needs to do it. The next council will not be able to alter the mayor's pay for 4 years. So it's time to get that straight. Let's see which councilor will try to solve that problem. Okay, on the state, Malloy just he's the consummate politician. And by that, I don't mean in a good way. I mean, he's the kind of guy that tells you what you want to hear, basically lies, and then once he gets elected, then he goes and does what he wants to do. I mean, some of the things he said during the campaign, have just already been blown out of the water. I mean, and he just goes merely. I mean, these guys don't even. They don't even skip it. Doesn't skip a beat. Now, in this case, what he's done with he's appointed an insurance commissioner, and it reeks of corruptness. Maybe it isn't, but it sure reeks of corruption. Basically, the mayor raised eyebrows late last week with the announcement that Catherine L. Wade, 49, a resident of Simsbury and a daughter-in-law of the leading Democratic Party fundraiser, James A. Wade, was his choice for insurance commissioner job, which carries a salary of $160,000. The Hartford law firm that Wade's father-in-law is affiliated with is a lobbyist for the Connecticut health insurance plans. So, I mean, this is a double whammy. I mean, she's going to be the insurance commissioner, and her father-in-law is the lobbyist for the health insurance industry, and he's the largest Democrat contributor in the state, and so, this is a payoff. It's not supposed to be that way. It just, what you really hope is that these people will govern with, at least a somewhat sense of honor and integrity. Instead, what you have is these real low-ball plays that guys like Malloy do, where basically it's a payoff for the father-in-law, and it puts the daughter-in-law in a position to influence how the insurance industry is regulated in Connecticut, because the father-in-law is a lobbyist for the insurance industry in Connecticut. I mean, it's really, it's really egregious. I'm surprised. I wouldn't have expected Malloy to do that. I mean, I know he doesn't mind lying, but I wouldn't expect him to do something like this. Malloy, during a press conference, brushed aside concerns about any perceived impropriety in the nomination of Wade, according to, and on it goes. So the core business of the insurance is spreading risk. Oh, no, that's another. According to the Hartford Courant, Wade's father-in-law began a political action committee, Prosperity for Connecticut, that has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for Democratic causes. His Robinson and Cole law firm represents the Connecticut Association of Health Plans. In other words, insurance. So it's just that one's corrupt. Anyway, so again, and then of course the other thing you got going on with the legislature is the governor's presented his budget, but now you got the Democratic legislature all abuzz about where to get revenue so that they don't have to cut some of the things the governor has asked them to cut in his budget. And so it'll be interesting to see if the governor holds tough on his budget or if he lets some of these legislatures creep in with more taxes, more revenue. What they said, they want to raise taxes. They want to raise taxes on the wealthy. Well, how many times? There aren't going to be any wealthy people left in Connecticut because they're all going to leave. They keep doing stuff like that. So, and then they want to raise taxes on business. Well, guess what? Business is going to leave if you start taxing businesses. People can make choices. If Connecticut provides such a bad environment for people to live and do business and try to make a living, people aren't going to live here. And guess what? They aren't. How many kids that you know of that went to college, graduated from college, moved back to Connecticut and are working here? Many are not. Same way with how many people that were in the service and maybe either retired or finished their tour of duty. How many of them come back to Connecticut? A lot don't, because the jobs aren't here, and it's hard. Businesses, if you're going to have jobs, you have to have businesses. And if you want to have businesses, you have to have a competitive environment. And these guys that are in Hartford that are trying to come up with new ways to bring in more revenue are just crazy. And the other thing they want to do is, as you know, we've talked about it, they want to raise tolls on the roads in Connecticut. Well, guess what? That's just another tax on Connecticut residents. And it hits the commuters the hardest. It's unbelievable. I mean, you would think that these guys would have already gotten enough money out of the taxpayer. How much more do they think the taxpayer can give? Remember, people are paying a percentage of how much they make to the state, to the feds, these guys. So people aren't making any more money, so how can they think they can raise taxes without killing the average guy? I mean, you're going to kill the average guy. You're going to kill the people that are making money. Remember, one of the old stories is, you never saw a poor man hire another man. It's the people that do the hiring are the people that have the money. if we want jobs, we got to keep everybody in Connecticut. And the raised taxes on, quote, the wealthy is just going to be cutting off your nose to spite your face. Excuse me. Okay, let's see. A piece of good news is that natural gas prices continue to plunge. And that's good news because you may heat your house with gas, and electricity is, much of it is generated by natural gas. So it should help to keep the prices of things like electricity and home heating costs down. But it's kind of interesting. It says, relentless U.S. production gains that caught many natural gas traders by surprise has triggered a 30% plunge in prices since November of natural gas. Bank of America says the sell-off isn't over and is telling clients to brace for the possibility of sub-$2 prices for the first time in 3 years. Gas output will climb to an all-time high of 78 billion cubic feet a day this year, an increase of 50% over 2005, led by shale reservoirs in Pennsylvania, Louisiana, Texas, the government data shows. I mean, this is great news, guys. The number of gas rigs has the number of gas rigs has tumbled to the lowest level since 1993, yet supply has risen steadily because of improved techniques for extracting the fuel. Natural gas for April delivery traded as low as $2.80 per million British thermal units on Wednesday in electronic trading on the New York Mercantile Exchange, down from $4.45 a year ago. Futures were last below $2 in April 2012 and haven't traded there more than a handful of days since 1999. And it just goes on to say, part of the Marcellus Reservoir in Pennsylvania, the nation's most productive gas basin, the break-even price is 38 cents, and they're getting around $2. So that's putting a lot of pressure on pushing the price down. Some producers in the nearby Utica shale can make money by selling gas at a loss because of profits earned from gas liquids that flow from the same wells. Data compiled by Bloomberg shows U.S. gas output has climbed to a record every year since 2011, driven by gains at shale formations from the Marcellus and the Utica to Haynesville in Louisiana and Eagle Ford and Permian in Texas. Operators in those basins have used techniques such as drilling multiple wells from the same pad to cut costs and boost production. Well, that's really good news. I mean, you know, it's sort of an aside. Maybe it's not really about Republican politics or Democrat politics, but it's a real plus for you as a consumer. When gasoline prices go down and natural gas prices go down, that's like giving you a tax break because you don't have much choice. You have to spend money for gas on your car, and you have to spend money to heat your home, and you have to spend money for electricity. So these are great things, and you know, it really comes out of all the fracking technology that we have. And guess who's been dragging their feet on fracking? President Obama. You know, I guess I don't know what he's trying to do. I don't know why he's against. You know, it's unbelievable. Hello, caller. You're New London Republicans.
Hi. Only problem is the electric and the gas bills went up substantially in Connecticut because the CEO just gave them a huge bonus. And I was just about to Google it and didn't have time to find out exactly how much it was. I've forgotten. It was a large bonus.
Yeah, I did hear that they're talking about the Connecticut utilities want to raise rates again. I do think they're going to get a lot of pushback on that because, like we say, the price of natural gas is heading down, and that's what they use to generate a lot of electricity. And I don't think the generators, you know, they sell electricity on the open market. So, you know, if electricity is coming in cheap from some other place, the nuclear plants aren't going to be able to cause the prices to raise like maybe they had in the past when costs went way up on the nuclear plants. Right now, it's pretty much a free market, and boy, with natural gas prices going down, the cost of electricity ought to go down, and Eversource, the old CL&P, they're going to be hard pressed to justify rate increases, in my opinion, especially for the basic cost of electricity. Maybe they're going to say, well, we need to raise for transmission costs or something like that, but anything they raise for transmission ought to go down for actual generation because their cost of fuel is going down.
Okay, here I've got it. Eversource CEO gets $1.3 million pay increase.
Wow. Wow. I wish I had that job. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
Yes, it is.
That's an increase. Does it say what his salary already was?
No, it just said it was they just said it was an increase. But I know my utility bills just keep going up, and I just keep trying to conserve, and I just can't keep up.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that the state has to approve the increases for the things like CL&P or the Eversource. So.
They're wise enough to take this into account.
Yeah. Well, let's hope hopefully we get some pushback from those guys on something.
Oh, he earned a total of $9 million in 2004.
Oh, say that again?
He earned $9 million in 2014.
And he's getting a $1 million raise, so he's going to get 10
So now
million.
he's $10.4 million he earns.
Oh boy, it's hard to believe anybody deserves that much money. But
No one does.
Yeah.
No one. If you follow the old CEO of Costco's, he said that CEOs today are extremely greedy. He did very well with Costco's.
Yeah.
That CEOs today are extremely greedy, and it's excessive, and there's no need for it. And that's why you're getting the big gap between middle class and wealthy, and the middle class just keeps getting poorer, and the wealthy just keep getting wealthier because of their greed.
Well, those guys those aren't the 1%. They're the 1/10 of 1%. There's very few people get that kind of money. That's an absurd amount. And maybe if you were the CEO of Apple Computer or General Motors, maybe you could make a case for saying that the job and the company's big enough and you're important enough to make that kind of money. It's hard to believe, but maybe you can make that case. But for being Eversource, which is basically the old Northeast Utilities, boy, that's hard to see. I don't see how they deserve that kind of money.
No, I don't either. It's horrible.
The other thing that's just why we're talking about it is the other thing that's ridiculous is, do you know how much the CEOs of the hospitals around here make? They make between $600,000 and $800,000 a year. The CEO of like L&M or Bacchus, these guys, and who you really should blame for that is the board of directors of these hospitals or these companies are the ones that sit there and dish out the money to these CEOs. It's really hard to see how a decent, respectable board of directors would do that. Well, I guess we're fading out. Thank you for the call, and we'll be back next week with some other good news.